The ZA Tech Show is made possible by Vodacom. Power to you at vodacom.co.za. And by BlackBerry. Love doing business on your BlackBerry smartphone at blackberry.co.za.
Hello and welcome to episode 197 of the ZA Tech Show for Monday, February 6, 2012. I'm Brett Haggard, and tonight we've got a full house of guests. Starting on the left, Mr. Steven Ambrose from Strategy Works at Ambio on Twitter.
Hello.
Hold on, let me turn you on.
Turn me on. That might help.
Hold on. Maybe now you've been turned on. Try again.
Am I with you?
There,
Are
now
we
you're
live?
with me. Fantastic.
Good stuff. Good
How
to
are
be
you,
here,
Mr.
Brett.
Ambrose?
Very good.
Excellent.
Just
Good to
amazed
hear.
it's Feb.
Indeed. Very, very quick, hey?
Well,
This
we had a
year's
busy
whizzing
jam.
by. Indeed. And directly to his left, my right, Mr. Benedict Kelly, Chief Whip at Ungeeked.
Chief Whip.
Indeed. And bottle washer. And he spent some time at the Mail and Guardian too. How are you, Mr. Kelly?
I'm very well, thank you, Brett.
Very good. And our ZA Tech Show version. Nafisa from, where are you now? My Digital Life?
Yes.
There we go. Welcome.
Thank you.
Nafisa sat quietly in the corner and watched us do stuff last week. And she popped out some very complimentary tweets about how chilled the atmosphere was in the house.
So I decided to join.
So let the
Indeed.
ritual
Welcome,
hazing of the
Nafisa.
newbie start.
Indeed. Well, no hazing. Come on. We like to see more feminine faces at the ZA Tech Show. Nafisa's a geek and
Confirmed.
she blogs and she does all kinds of cool stuff, and she's got 60 gazillion Twitter followers. So we're very
maybe
happy
after
to
the
have her on
show.
the podcast. And interestingly enough, not a news-filled week, but there is some interesting stuff to talk about. There's some listing stuff and some other stuff. And I don't know if anybody wants to kick something off, but this being the ZA Tech Show, or the ZA Apple Show, as so many people like to call it, I thought I'd lead with a little piece of interesting Apple news. Something that came out this week that Business Insider covered. And it turns out that the Apple iPhone business is now bigger than the whole of Microsoft put together.
Oops.
Do you believe it? Don't you believe it?
Incredible.
I think, being the accountant in the group here, I'm not going to try bring down the tone, but I think that's a little bit of creative reporting.
Reporting.
Yeah,
okay.
to be honest. Selective viewing and understanding, and are they talking about market share? Let's just click on the link and have a look what they say. But it doesn't sound reasonable.
Yeah.
Though the market capitalization of Apple is just berserk.
I mean, if you take it on profitability, yeah, probably, because they're making a lot of money out of the iPhone, and they're making a lot of money out of. They're saying just pure revenue there. They're saying $25 billion in revenue for iPhones, and Microsoft making just over $20 billion in revenue.
Yeah, and look, you see now that that's the thing about that story. That's not adding apps in.
No.
That's not adding any of the Mac stuff. That's not adding the Mac software store into the equation. That is pretty scary stuff. And
but part of it is the issue is that Microsoft is stuck in a low margin volume business.
No, I don't think that's strictly true. That's not strictly true. Remember, Microsoft mostly, they're big. Well, there's part of it. One of the big contributors to Microsoft is, of course, Xbox, which is a product which they make and sell, and there's a margin on it. But the rest of Microsoft is essentially 100% margin. They manufacture nothing and sell a program for lots of money.
Well,
so they have 100%. I've spoken to their creative accountants, and they have a way of costing things in, but essentially their software is 100% margin. So they're a very profitable business in their own way, And it's all accounting. That is the problem with the markets.
Well, they're almost like a bit of a victim of their own success, though. I mean, if you think about it, how many people do you know outside of technology journalism circles that upgrade their Office suite, for example, every single iteration?
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Most people don't. Most people use what they've got till they get a new PC.
And the question is how much.
And the same
how
with
much
operating
money-
systems, right?
Yeah. I
People
mean,
are still using XP.
Yeah, there's a lot of by choice, in fact.
yeah.
A lot of gamers absolutely love XP.
Yeah.
So
But there's also, I mean, if you think about it, you say that it's 100% margin, but I mean, they have costs.
No, absolutely.
Okay, so if cost per.
But
cost
there's no fixed cost of manufacture.
No, well, very small.
You know, where you've got an Xbox, you've got to buy
Yeah.
bits and put them
And you've
together,
gotta sit-
and there's
and
a
you've gotta-
fixed cost.
And you got to shrink wrap some CDs.
No, that's all. That's history.
Yeah.
They hardly
But-
shrink wrap CDs.
But the point is that I mean, most people, the days of people upgrading their version of Windows, when a new version of Windows comes out, seem to be very long gone. Most
absolutely.
people buy their computer and they use whatever version of Windows ships on it until they buy a new computer, and then they get their upgrade is when they buy a new computer.
That's true.
And the retail, I mean, basically they're giving it to those OEMs virtually.
Well, not quite. I mean, look, they're a well-run company.
Yes. No,
They've been profitable over an enormous period of time. They are fundamental to the technology environment that we
absolutely.
live in.
I'm not disagreeing.
And no, the point I'm trying to make is that we now have a company that's come from behind and has overtaken them in terms of market perception, have overtaken them in terms of a completely different model, mobile. The whole mobile thing, if you stripped mobile out of Apple, it wouldn't be a significant business.
no, sure. But I
So
think, you know what, at the same
it's,
time,
it's interesting how mobile has dominated so completely.
this is a slice in time right now. I think that this is
Absolutely.
going to be an entirely different story in the next 2 to 3 years. So cloud is not just a more novel way of delivering software to users and a nicer way for consumers to consume that. It's, from an accounting perspective, and you can chime in here, Stephen, it's going to bring those annuity revenues back in and smooth those revenue streams out. Because as people make use of services and software, they're going to be paying in. They're not necessarily going to be paying less than what they were paying before, in terms of this big upfront cost and then using the software for 2 to 3 years afterwards. All right. In fact, I would argue in a lot of instances,
They'll spend more.
they're going to be spending more.
Absolutely.
I had an interesting meeting with Adobe last week, right? And they're starting to talk about some very interesting business models in terms of cloud-based licensing for their suites. All right. Now, the weird thing is a lot of designers skip a generation of Adobe Creative Suite because it's quite an expensive piece of software.
And what they've got, they know and works.
Now, you turn around and you say, Mr. Designer, would you be all right with paying $50 US a month to make use of that suite, that same suite? And they go, hell yes, of course, absolutely no hassle, right? So they're happy to pay $350 a month, all right? Extrapolate that out over a 2-year period, which is on average how long you hold on to that suite for. And Adobe's making the same amount of cash, but designers are very, very happy to pay somewhere between $350 and $500 a month to make use of that software because they're getting immediate value from it. It's only costing them $350. But make them pay 8 to 12 to 14 to 20 grand in one shot.
Front, no.
Not a chance, right? And that's where I think Microsoft's going to pivot this whole thing because they've been doing a lot of work on cloud.
Office 365
Yeah.
is their first shot at that. And through Office 365, you can buy on a monthly annuity-based basis the normal computer Office suite. So you can have your cloud stuff as well as your fixed PC stuff for a fixed amount of money per month. So
Yeah.
they've already switched it around, so you can have it all for a month.
You see, I
all
want to see
for
the
a monthly
the
fee.
pricing come down a little bit before I buy in entirely. Don't get me wrong, absolutely appropriate for this moment in time, interesting model, everything else. But I look at it, and strangely enough, I think that the pricing per seat is going to come down in the next 2 years. It's got to the moment it starts scaling, and I think in order for it to be sustainable and have continued buy-in, that's what's going to have to happen.
I mean, I've just been following the links on that original Apple iPhones are better than Microsoft story.
Yes.
Okay, and they started off on 3 pie charts. Okay, the first pie chart, this is from ZDNet, is a breakdown of Apple versus Microsoft versus Google in terms of their revenues. Now, Microsoft, we'll start with Google. Google's money all comes from advertising, basically.
Okay.
Like 95% of it. I'm not on percentage on this. I'm
There's
just
3% of people that buy bigger mailboxes for Gmail.
I'm looking at the thing.
And everyone else.
It's a big
just
blue
ads.
pie chart with a very tiny sliver of orange at the end of it. Okay, and
That's Gmail.
And blue is
That's
advertising. Apple, more than 50% of their revenue comes from iPhone, then iPad, then Mac portables, then iPod, then other music, then Mac desktops, software and services, and peripherals, etc. But iPhone and iPad are almost 75% of their revenue. Okay, Microsoft, on the other hand, now there's two little things at the end of it, which are unallocated and other, which is a tiny little sliver, and online services division, which is probably about 3 or 4%. But basically, there's quarter of their business is Microsoft Business Division, quarter is servers and tools, quarter is Windows and Windows Live, and quarter is entertainment and devices. Okay, with a little bit less on the entertainment and devices and on the Windows and Windows Live, to make up for the other stuff, which is just little slivers at the end of it. But you've got Microsoft, which has got 4 divisions, contributing a quarter to each of their quarter of its revenue, whereas Apple's reliant on 2 products for 75%.
Yeah.
Any one of those products, people stop buying iPads or iPhones, and Apple are toast.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm worried about. I think that Apple have reached the pinnacle of its incarnation this time round.
People have been saying that for a long time, but
Ben, I don't know.
they seem to manage to innovate.
I said this last week, and I'll say it again. All right, it's the writing's on the wall. There's cheap ass 3GSs and 4s coming to market with limited capacity. That is going to appeal to the prepaid market. Remember that. The iPhone has never been a phone that you can get on prepaid in the US, when 90% of their interest and hype goes.
My argument is a different argument.
Okay.
Why were the iPad and the iPhone, and why have they been so phenomenally successful?
Because they're fantastic devices.
Because they're fantastic devices, and they established a category.
Okay.
The iPhone rewrote the smartphone rulebook. Okay, and people bought them and continue to buy them because they set the bar. Okay, the iPad is exactly the same thing. I'm worried that there's going to come a point where the Samsungs of the world, and specifically Samsung, okay, are going to catch up and overtake, or at least benchmark themselves against Apple. Okay, where they'll be able to deliver the same products or equivalent products on Android with as good enough functionality at a lower cost than Apple is willing to take its products. But the question is a lot of Apple's success, I feel, is based on their ability to continue to innovate and continue to deliver. Oh my God, I can't believe they did that. Oh my God, I can't believe they did that. They've made this so fantastic. Okay, and they did it with the phones first, and that took them through a few years. Okay, and now they've done it with tablets, and that's going to carry them forward a few years. Okay, but and maybe I'm completely wrong, because I'm not sitting, and this is why I'm not sitting in Silicon Valley inventing crap. But there's going to come a point where they're going to say, well, where's the next product category? Where's the next one to blow people's socks off?
Apple TV.
That TV maybe
Well,
TV
see, this is an interesting
one.
segue into the next story, which is all of the speculation that's been around over the past little while about where things go with Apple TV and what exactly the future of Apple TV is. Because if Apple's role is really to continue to invent new categories and change entire categories of product, surely they're betting the farm on
TV.
On TV, right?
I mean,
no. I think all the speculation about TV misses the whole point. I don't believe this year we're going to see an Apple TV. I'm going on record, and maybe I'll look like the biggest monkey that walked. The truth is, the TV is such a commodity game, and people have said that about the MP3 players and about the cell phones. So again, my disclaimer may be wrong. But
Sure.
I just think that there are approaches to TV that Apple are going to take, combined with content and OSs and everything, and iPads and cloud services that are going to be revolutionary. I don't think they're going to step fully into a product such as a TV screen for now.
So there was an interesting story on in the past day or two, that analysts are starting to talk about the 3 possible routes for future Apple TV stuff. And you know what? I buy into it a bit because I think that there's compelling TV services out there at the moment, right? I think that the problem is the devices that are available to combine those TV services together are not compelling yet. And what Apple does extremely well is make devices. They make devices that make you want to use them, right? So this first point in the article is about changing the experience, not the service. Okay. You've got Netflix, you've got Hulu.
Sorry, let's qualify. None of us have got that.
Well, okay, so
they're available to certain people
the developed world, and anybody that knows how to rope together a VPN has Netflix, Hulu, all right, and then on the music front has the likes of Spotify and Last.fm and stuff like that. BBC iPlayer is going subscription very, very soon, so you can get that anywhere in the world. I would buy Apple reinventing the TV sector if they were able to create a device that cleverly combined and created an experience where you could draw on all those services in a really rad way.
So I think, and I've been bouncing around in my head and saying, what could Apple do which would blow my socks off?
Okay.
And the problem that they face is that TV is driven by satellite and cable companies, who make their own devices, who build their own user interfaces, which some of them are better and some of them are worse.
Okay.
But invariably, you have to end up in DSTV's world. Now, if Apple really wanted to reinvent TV, they would have to say, if I was Apple, I would say, we're building this TV, and what we're giving out.
No, Apple never tells you what they do. Remember that.
No. Once I release it, I would actually say we're releasing this device, or the service which will run on iPhones, iPads. It's part of Macs, on every single device that we make, including this new Apple TV which we're selling, and what it is, but at the same time we're handing out essentially a user interface set of APIs for all the networks, all the content owners to leverage. So you want DSTV. Your DSTV is now an app on your TV. So I don't have to.
Sure.
And that then. So I write on my decoder. I write a programming interface which which then talks to the TV, but it essentially Appleifies my entire. I know how it's.
I like that. Appleifies.
Okay, so Ben.
No, but I think you're onto something,
agreeing.
Ben.
No, but we're totally agreeing here because I didn't. I wasn't prescriptive about what I think the device will look like.
Yeah.
Right. I was prescriptive about
If
the
there's
fact
a
that
device
if you can change the experience of TV, that would be a rad way to do it. I agree with you entirely.
Quite frankly, I
want all of that stuff just to play happily.
The PVR interface or the DSTV interface is not horrible.
It's terrible.
It could be worse.
It's laggy,
terrible.
it's slow, it's unstable.
It could be worse.
Yeah, make it worse.
It's blocky.
It could
It's
be
expensive.
I'm saying it could.
And blows up TVs.
And susceptible to lightning strikes. Anyway,
it could be worse. And that's what I'm saying.
Okay, totally. No, totally.
It does work.
That is why I'm a gigantic advocate of fiber. Put fiber in. Lightning won't come down a fiber line. Come on.
But if you think about it, if you said, all these guys are looking at how to stream video, how to do this. Suddenly you expose. You have a really slick user interface, and you expose a way for them to say, these are the services we offer, be it through a DSTV box, which is basically just a hard drive and some smartness, which would allow them to actually build those things much smaller and much cheaper, because they're not having to build the user interface. Somebody's doing it for them. The user, unless you're saying that the user interface is a differentiator in that market, which I don't think it is. The differentiator in that market is content.
The problem for every other supplier of content other than Apple is that it's too easy through these type of online devices to deal direct. And I hate this word, but it disintermediates everybody down the value chain. So a lot of the whole structure of how media work in this country and globally, it's not only South Africa, but the whole structure of how these things work make it incredibly difficult to come up with a slick, unified, simple, easy-to-use system that is universally applicable. So you can buy a Boxy box right now. Apparently, Telkom are selling Boxy boxes. You go onto online, you sign up for Netflix and Hulu and all these services. They pop up like apps exactly as you've said.
Yeah,
you click one
they
button
geolocate,
and
that's
they stream.
the problem.
The problem is none of them are available in South Africa or many other territories around the world.
Yeah, sure.
So the whole thing then falls down. So to come up with something this compelling that's going to work for us here is, I think it's a stretch.
Steve, can I just throw something out there for a second? It has bugger all to do with us here. It has to do with the States and the huge media consuming public in Europe. These people have no problems with internet connectivity. They have no problem with getting their content already. They're already getting their content using IPTV and stuff like that and streaming.
More than 66% of America watches their TV through the internet.
But to Ben and my point, to Ben and my point is there's these silos of content sitting around, and that is a nightmare. Now the Boxy box gets you halfway there. It amplifies all of these little channels and it makes them available, right? But at the end of the day, I want to be able to look at an interface in front of me and go, what I really want to watch is this program, that program, that program, that program, that program.
And now
define it and go, here you go. That's what my preference is. I don't care where you get it. Just go and fetch it and play it for me. Thank you very much. And that is the whole bit about changing the experience. I mean, look, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors and like cryptic stuff, and in the book there's stuff that's hinted at and blah 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 blah. And indeed. And Apple are the masters of like creating spin around something and then like not telling you anything until look, it's the new iProduct, and everybody drools and goes and buys one. But they have always made the experience fantastic. That goes to hardware, that goes to the whole interface. And if they can get this right with TV, it will work. It's got to work.
Absolutely. But I do believe that the whole nature of TV, we saw it at CES, the whole nature of TV, the whole interactive nature of how you work with TV is changing dramatically.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, companies like Samsung that can cross-subsidize a non-profit making division like TV with other stuff can drive the agenda. Now, let's hope with their 100 billion sitting in the bank, Apple can do a similar thing. Because TV is the one area that needs massive reinvention.
Sure.
And I think we're going to see it. But then again, look at Microsoft with their whole Xbox experience.
Yeah.
They're trying to do a very similar thing.
Look, I think that the moment... So there's like word in the chat room about how this is largely irrelevant stuff, and right now I will agree. For the next year, this is largely irrelevant. The reality, however, is all right. You look at something like Windows 8, all right. Put that in the background, and the fact that there's this giant app store going to roll out in the background. So put that in the back of your mind for a sec. Then look at the consumer play around Xbox and the redesigned front-end interface and
which
all of the
like
Metro
8.
stuff. Indeed, all right. So there's a bit of subliminal stuff going on there. But look at the services that are being exposed to the rest of the world. Right now, marry the fact that cloud is happening in a meaningful way all over the world, right?
Absolutely.
In a year's time, in fact, before the end of the year, we will be buying services from Microsoft using a cloud environment on top of Windows 8, hands down. Now, how difficult is it to just switch on the content portion of that? It's easy. They've got all of this infrastructure anyway. They're just going to lash the content portion on, all right? Mark my words, iTunes will be here before the end of the year. Zune will be here before the end of the year. All right. I spoke to somebody recently that's working with the big bandwidth providers in Africa to get the big content owners and those guys that are streaming those video and audio services all around the world. They are coming to Africa.
Well,
by the end of the year,
a lot of them are already here.
We will be on a par with the rest of the world in terms of services, and that gets
That's
really
interesting statement, because fundamentally it will change a good chunk of our, and I'm talking about the geeks and anyone who listens to this show, it'll change the way that we interact and interface with entertainment, not just with TVs, but with entertainment. I mean, imagine being able to start watching a thing on your big screen, having to go and sit in the car with the kids on a long trip somewhere and carry on watching the show.
Yeah, no,
it changes
I'd really like
the
to,
whole way that things work, and that's
flick
pretty
something
scary.
on my TV and flick a piece of content into my smartphone and walk out with it playing. You know,
Saw Sony doing that.
Seen that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
It exists. It might just be like really, really difficult to implement in a consumer service right now, but it'll come. While we're on the topic of TV, let's quickly just mention that Google TV, very, very non-interesting story, but nonetheless, for some people it might be interesting.
Those with
going
Sony
3.2 right now, Google TV, so 3.2, and quite logically, very, very soon in the near future, to 4. So there you go. It's clearly happening.
No, they're definitely unifying across all their products.
It's going to be interesting for me when that hits 4, because then you're talking about a smartphone, a tablet, and a TV interface running one operating system, one platform, applications flowing across all 3 of those. That starts making sense for me. But anyway, so quite logically, we'll go 3.2 and then 4 next. We were talking about Microsoft just now, something that really piqued my interest this week. And we've been raving about Windows Phone and how phenomenally awesome Windows Phone is, right? I think it's really, really good. Okay,
I must agree.
Great play from them. Then there's a story this week, all right, that Windows Phone 8 has the same kernel as Windows 8. So, right,
That's geek speak.
Okay,
kernel.
so yes, the same underlying
base.
core, all right, of software.
Just
And-
like iOS and OS 10 have the same underlying core
No,
of
they
software.
don't.
Yes, but here's the
No,
bit
they
that
don't.
gets icky
Oh,
for
they
me.
absolutely 100% don't. iOS and OS X are completely different.
So this is where it gets icky for me, Ben.
Icky.
All right. Icky.
Icky.
Icky. Icky sticky. All right. The whole thing that's been wrong with Microsoft's handheld and mobile strategy for like the absolutely longest time, right, until Windows Phone 7, that is that Microsoft had this practice of taking like a gigantic operating system and
trying to
shoehorning it onto something that is a tenth of the size, all right? It started out fairly well with CE, where they stripped stuff out to make it fit, and then they had to add other stuff in, and suddenly we had like complete messes like Windows Mobile and Windows Mobile 6.5 that are terrible to use, horrible to program for, and
They freeze.
yeah, it's just
freeze.
complete fail.
They freeze it, so they never work to start with.
So there's
Let's
a
not bash
couple of
Microsoft.
there's a couple of alarm bells going off
No,
for me now
I don't
because
think so at
because
all.
I'm a little worried about you need distinct operating system images. I'm sorry,
No,
because
no.
for handheld it needs to be heavily optimized.
I think this is where a lot of people are missing the next curve that's coming. In many ways, the apps, the things that we're going to be doing on our devices, are going to become much less dependent on the OS and the underlying platform that you operate on. And that being said, all of us will start expecting the same functionality, and we already do. Whether you're on iOS, OS X, Windows 7, Windows 8, whatever you're doing, whatever device you're using, you'll expect very similar sort of ways of working, similar ways of seeing things, similar reaction, and the same apps. So apps themselves are going to change, and the idea of unifying a platform across multiple different devices, especially with the computing power. I mean, within a month we're going to see 5 core processors in your phone, 4 for gaming and 1 just to keep the thing ticking over. So
and 1 to run the fan.
yeah, 1 to run the fan. So the whole story of memory and processing power is no longer relevant. So if you
I think
can,
each device needs to have its own operating system.
No.
Optimized.
no,
It
not
won't
at all.
work properly. If a tablet is running an operating system that's not optimized for it, it shows, and you have a poor experience.
No, for sure.
You
Look, I mean,
can't
you know
argue
what?
with that
Hey.
in sense, but what I'm saying, the experience is going to be the same no matter what device you use. That's the point I'm trying to make. And if you can make it simple
I'm not sure
to
about that.
create, use, port, and manage product across a platform range in a seamless and easy to manage way, I think it's going to revolutionize the way that you interact with your devices.
Yeah, but an app on a tablet won't be the same experience as on a machine. Is that what you're saying?
No, the app on a tablet will be identical in experience to the app on a
Yes.
PC.
No, I don't.
On a
think so.
tablet, yes, but MacBook raises a fantastic point.
Yeah.
Won't it affect battery life and performance? Now, here's the thing. So, MacBook in the chat room, and if you're listening to the ZA Tech Show for the first time, or you've listened a couple of times and you wonder why we keep on referring to people, we actually have a fantastic back channel running in the background on IRC. We're hardcore like that. We like to roll retro IRC, all right, on za.shadowfire.org, and they contribute to the show. So you keep an eye on that and you kind of talk about it also. But it's totally going to affect battery life. And I agree with you, all right? You know, Nafisa, I totally agree with you, because the thing is, a tablet I can buy. There's enough space and surface area in a tablet to shunt a bit of extra battery in there.
Yeah.
And you can deal with a bit of extra weight. In a smartphone, absolutely not. I think technically, in terms of processor capability, Stephen, yes. All right. And this I was saving for right at the end of the discussion, where I completely changed my entire viewpoint on it. And I say the only thing that could redeem this entire thing is the fact that there's a massive amount of work going into getting Windows 8 onto ARM right now. Okay.
Apart from that, remember that the kernel is what they call min-win.
Yeah.
And that kernel itself is incredibly small, incredibly light, and basically is Unix.
Oh, sure.
So we all, the whole basis of all these devices is essentially built around the Windows kernel, and then you've got the hardware interface layers that are different for each device. But at the end of the day, the user himself, when he picks up, like now, I'm using Evernote on an iPad. I was playing with Evernote on the web earlier, and I was on Windows and on Mac. And the experience and the way it presented and everything that it did was absolutely seamless across all of them. And if I switch to my BlackBerry, based on BlackBerry things, I'll get an almost identical experience. So I expect that. I want that. And the kernel and the way these things work is actually almost irrelevant
I don't
to that.
think you're going to get that on a smartphone. I think you will get a certain level of uniformity between the desktop / notebook / touch-based slate type thing and the tablet device, but I don't think you're going to get
now
that
here's
on
a case in
smartphone.
point. Intel released their Android platform running on an x86 architecture. A month ago, and they're talking about battery life.
Johnny come late.
No, I'm not saying that's not the discussion. The fact is, the biggest problem that everyone said about x86, it'll never have the battery life, it hasn't got the power envelope, you'll never get performance power and all that good stuff. Here they've managed to optimize it running on an x86, which is the same as any Windows PC, and they've got the same, if not better, battery life, the same, if not better, performance than an ARM or other platforms. So I think there's massive convergence in terms of OS and underlying hardware architecture, which is allowing developers to divorce that from their equation and simply work on coming up with cool new ways of doing things. And I think that's, by the end of this year, as much as we're going to see iTunes in South Africa, we're going to see a fundamental shift in the way that people create, interface, and write programs, or whatever you want to call them, apps, programs for multiple devices. And once we see that, we're going to see a massive change in the way that you and I and the rest of humanity deal with these things. And I think it's going to be big.
No,
And
I
on that,
disagree.
anyway, okay. So on that note,
Disagree with
we're
me.
exactly halfway through the show, and a fantastic time to talk about our sponsor, Vodacom. We're extremely happy to have Vodacom as a sponsor on the ZA Tech Show. They've been with us for quite a while now, and they give us a ton of support, and we're really, really thankful to them. And this week, what I'd like to speak about is the upgrading, so to speak, of MyGig 1 and MyGig 2 packages, and the reduction, more to the point, the reduction of cost around those, which I think is pretty
That's what I saw
significant.
today. Big drop in costs.
So, in line with Vodacom's strategy, put the power of the internet in people's hands, Vodacom will be launching 2 data contract promotions to the consumer market. And they also fall in line with another strategy of simplifying other great value and customizing pricing and packages. So, cutting to the chase, the broadband standard MyGig 24-month contract has been reduced from 249 Rand a month to 99 Rand a month, giving customers a 60% saving, and the MyGig 2 24-month contract has been reduced from 349 to 149. That is pretty damn significant, I think. It's a big reduction in cost.
Serious reduction.
Long overdue.
Long
2 gigs for $149. I'm going to bolt one of those onto my smartphone contract if I can. I think that's fantastic.
Well, I'm on prepaid, so.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure you can do that on prepaid
No, I think
as well.
it's
Is it
limited to contract
only
customers.
contract? Okay.
And I think it's to new contracts taken out between the 6th of Feb
Yes.
and the
It's-
6th of May.
So it is.
And it includes a
It
modem.
runs from the 7th of February 2012. So that's tomorrow, if you're listening to the podcast live. It was recorded on February 6th, to the 6th of May 2012. So it runs for just under a month. It's a pretty good deal. $99 for a
maths?
gig.
February, March,
Oh, sorry,
March,
May.
April,
So February,
May.
March,
3
it's
months.
3 months. Sorry, what am I saying? Thank you, Stephen.
I thought you,
That's
were, the
why I
time, I thought you were the timekeeper on the
That's
show.
That's why I invite. I was just testing you guys. See? I
Yeah,
was just
no, we're
completely
awake.
testing you
We're
guys.
awake.
So what they say here is after the initial 24-month contract period, the contract can be renewed or will continue on a month-to-month basis at the then prevailing rate for the relevant bundle size. The promotional offer includes a free modem and normal out-of-bundle prices apply. No restrictions to the use of these data bundles. They can be used any time of the day. So that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Well
And
done, Vodacom.
Brilliant. And let the broadband price wars
Yeah.
continue.
Continue.
Let the price wars
Absolutely.
roll.
Let the
indeed.
dogs of war go mad on data. I love it.
So again, thank you to Vodacom for sponsoring the ZA Tech Show, and thank you for caring about the South African data market. I think that absolutely rocks. So on that note, what should we talk about? I don't think we nearly gave the Lumia 800 enough airtime last week. We spoke mostly about the launch, and we spoke a little bit about the phones. But Nafisa and I, we've both, and Stephen, I think you've received one too.
But mine disappeared to someone else. But
Oh,
anyway.
okay, yes. So one of your staff, your minions,
Yeah.
you have one of your
Shoof,
minions reviewing
gone.
it. But I've not actually had a chance to play with it for longer than an hour or two, and so have you. We've been playing
Yes,
with it
I've
for
been
about a
playing with
week
it for
now,
few days.
and I'm most impressed with the hardware.
Oh yeah, you can't fault that. It's stunning.
It's
And well, the physical aspect of it is
Yes.
stunning. But yeah, it's very fast. I haven't experienced any lag. I'm not sure about you.
So
Scrolling.
I haven't had any lag. I've had 2 crashes though.
Oh,
Yeah,
is
no,
it? I've never.
I've
had
also
that.
had
Which
a
has
very
been
weird
random
crash.
in the middle of a
Oh.
phone call
Same
and
thing.
in the middle of disconnecting from my
The screen
car
went
kit.
blue and there's some white text on
No,
it.
no. It didn't. Like I got a B-sod, a blue screen of death. No. So essentially, what happened when it crashed is it was a very elegant little crash. It just the screen, the phone call dropped, it went away, and then the screen went black, and nothing happened, and then the little Nokia logo came up, and it rebooted. Thankfully, it boots fairly quickly, so I was back in the phone in about 25-30 seconds, and I could reinitiate the call. Other than those 2 crashes in the past week, and let me disclaim this by saying that I'm pretty hard on hardware normally. I mean,
Yeah.
it's my job to test stuff. It's been great. It's been stable.
Well, the
So,
only
yeah.
problem I've had with messaging, I wasn't receiving messages within the first few days when I tried it. I realized it was because I had my iMessage switched on when my SIM card was on my iPhone, and then when I swapped, I wasn't getting messages, and then I swapped back and switched iMessage off and put it back in here. Then my messages started coming
See,
through.
that
That's
that
a
shouldn't
really
have been a
interesting-
problem because
really interesting point.
because the architecturally
I was
quickly, and I
wondering-
don't want to make this about Apple, but
Yeah.
architecturally the way iMessage works is if for a certain amount of time it's not able to get an iMessage through to you, it sends an SMS, right?
Okay.
So I didn't have that as an issue. I've got my primary SIM card in the Lumia 800 and
Okay,
and no
I did
hassles.
have that problem.
Okay,
I thought
that's
it
quite
wasn't working
interesting.
properly, but now it's
But quickly
all fine.
resolved.
But that's
Yeah,
a
it's
really
fine.
useful point. So if anyone, God forbid, goes and trades in their Apple, their iPhone for a Lumia, just remember to switch off iMessage before you do the switch.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you won't be able to get the iMessage from Apple corporate telling you you've been excommunicated from the church otherwise.
And the keyboard, I'm finding it a bit too small for me. I'm still making mistakes, but I think I'll get used to it.
You know
I've
what?
been hitting the wrong
I've never
keys.
been a fan of like haptic feedback or any form of feedback. I've felt it's massively unnecessary, and it's one of the first things I turn off when I'm reviewing an Android phone. Okay,
Yeah.
loving the haptic feedback on this. It's a little buzz. It's like a little sound. It's
got it right.
just right. You know what? I was when we chatted to Marco Atasari, the head of design for Nokia, when they launched the N9, which is pretty much the same chassis that the Lumia 800 is built on, except that this has got a couple of extra buttons.
Yeah.
He was saying that they worked really, really hard to get the feedback through the screen, which
Be
is
really natural.
is I think from a design perspective and technically bloody difficult to achieve if you think about it,
Yeah.
to like centralize that feedback around something. But it's the most logical place for the feedback to happen. I really like that about the phone. I think it's hell of a fast.
Yeah.
Loving all of the bundled apps, right? So I mean, the couple of extras that you get with this that you don't with a normal Windows phone are kind of cool.
Well, I like the integrated social network feed. Everything in one.
That's standard. With,
No, which is nice
with
for
Windows Phone
broadcasting,
Mango.
right? It's nice for broadcasting stuff out there. But I still went and I installed Twitter and
no, for sure, me
Facebook
too.
because
My
I want to
hometown.
sometimes I just want to see Twitter and sometimes I just
You
want to see
keep it
Facebook.
separate.
But it is also kind of novel just seeing what Ben Kelly is doing, for example, across 4 or 5 different social networks. I think that's kind of rad, right?
Yeah, but yeah, all the
And
functionality
broadcasting
lies
info
in the
out is
separate
great.
apps, though.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. So I mean, it's cool. It's interesting that it has the Twitter and Facebook integration, but you've got to go and install the Twitter and
Yes.
Facebook apps separately, which I find kind of interesting. The ringtones are horrible. I'll tell you
love
that.
the
I'm just sticking
ringtones.
to default
The
Nokia.
first time my phone rang and that Nokia doodaloo doodaloo came up, it was like a blast from the past. It
Well,
was
I've
magic.
I've left my message tone as the old Nokia message tone, but the
me
the
as well.
Nokia tune
I
drives
like
me
that.
I
I
drives
like
me
that.
mental.
I actually had
so.
a bit of a laugh the other day. I was watching a movie, and the phone rang, but it was the default Apple iPhone ringtone, and I thought 3 years ago that would have been a Nokia ringtone.
Jeez, that's
So no,
left
look, you know
field,
what,
Ben.
I walked through
That's
through
like,
all of them,
boom.
and now I've got this funny like marimba type drum beat thing set as my.
But
I
Africa-
really should go just get an MP3 and set
Absolutely.
it, to be an MP3. But no, the built-in ringtone. Sorry, only thing I don't like about the phone.
Download one of those where they go, druk die groen knoppie.
You know what's
Yeah.
so
Druk die
fascinating?
groen knoppie.
For 2 days, I wandered around with the Nokia,
The Lumia, yeah.
the Lumia, and every time I took it out, people were stopping me
Yeah.
randomly saying, "Is that the new Nokia?" They weren't saying the new Windows phone or anything. Just, "Is that the new Nokia?" And I say, "Yes." And they say, "Is it good?" And I say, "It's great." They said, "Oh, good to hear." And that's what's going to sell these phones because they're the newest, latest, hottest Nokia. And the best part is when people get it, they're not going to be disappointed.
Has anybody heard how sales are actually going?
No, not a peep from anyone.
I'd be very interested to know because, look, in South
know, if-
Africa at least, like Windows Phone has just not taken. It's been
A non-event.
yeah, pretty
much.
much.
What
It's
about
been
the
available out there.
Xbox giveaway they had.
I
did
don't know. I haven't managed to get any commentary on how that's going. Generally speaking, you'll have a press release or some form of commentary if it's like mind-blowingly awesome. But if it's to expectation or anything under, the networks are the only guys that really comment on that kind of stuff. They play their cards close to their chest. It's still a
I
Vodacom
heard-
exclusive right
Absolutely. Till the 7th.
now. Well,
Until tomorrow.
so I didn't actually get an
Yeah,
answer
till
in
tomorrow,
terms
till
of
tomorrow.
I don't think they negotiated a finite exclusivity. They just hadn't
Hang on.
tied up agreements with the other
I
networks.
specifically asked, and yeah, you're right.
Yes.
But the VodaWorld exclusivity
Oh yes, okay.
ran till
yes,
the
yes,
7th.
Yes.
And from tomorrow,
It's available on
it's
Vodacom.
available from
everywhere.
Vodacom countrywide.
Yes.
I have no doubt that the other networks are going to take it and take it quite soon because Nokia's got a great relationship with them. But Vodacom always seem to be one step ahead in terms of the hottest, latest
It's
devices.
an interesting one to actually consider because the answer I got was that it's not that it has specifically been launched with Vodacom exclusively. Rather, it is that they haven't finalized agreements with the other networks.
And
that the
Vodacom were
networks
just the
and they were in
first and the
final
fastest.
discussions. Yeah. So, and I think that's the case a lot of the time, and quite possibly it's just because Vodacom has a more aggressive strategy in terms of listing phones faster. Maybe they've got an easier contract, or maybe their terms are a little simpler. I don't know, but
whatever, it
nonetheless.
gives them, I believe it gives them the edge. They've got the most devices, the first devices, and I think it works for them. There's no question because the market in South Africa is strongly device driven, and people will change operators, they'll change phone numbers to get the device they want. So good luck to them.
Okay, so Lumia 800, pretty rad. What don't you like about it? I don't like 2 things about it.
Well-
Firstly, no Skype. What the hell, people? Come on. Microsoft, you own Skype. Dudes,
I think that
come
Well,
on,
they have-
put it on your own platform.
just some
That would
perspective,
be
they
rad.
have promised by the end of Feb, Skype will be available.
By the end of Feb.
End of Feb. So
Okay.
3 weeks' time, Skype will be available on Windows Phone. And I actually made a point of this, that from Windows 8, Skype is going to be so integrated into the whole Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8 experience that they say, we'll see how this pans out, that it'll be just as easy to make a phone call through Skype as it is to make a phone call through a normal phone call through your cellular provider. I want to see what the cellular providers are going to say about this. But the fact is, the integration is going to be seamless.
Just as a side note, I must tell you, Skype has been actually driving me mental over the past 2 weeks. It's like it has this ESP, right? It knows exactly who I
Knows
want
when
to
you're
call.
irritated.
No. It knows exactly who I want to call, and exactly the person I want to call is not available on Skype. Everybody else is.
But
Right.
that person's
So when
off.
I was in the States, every time I wanted to phone Kerry, we'd set it up over iMessage and kind of, and I should probably just have FaceTimed her, it would have been easier. But we'd like kind of SMS back and forth and say, okay, cool, are we ready to Skype kind of thing? And she'd round up the boys and get them into the kitchen and put the Mac down and everything else. We'd sit down, me on the other end of the world, knowing full and well that she's there on Skype. And then
she
we
doesn't pop up.
I don't pop up on her screen. She doesn't pop up on my screen. My friend Gary in Austin, Texas, that I'm spending some time with just before South by Southwest. Same story on Saturday morning. It's like, hey Gary, should we Skype? Yeah, sure, no problem. And like 2 minutes later, dude, where are you? Can't see you on Skype. I'm like, me either. It has an ESP built in, like just an aggravation factor. So
And that's the problem when things are not as fully
Yeah.
integrated as they should be. The hassle factor makes you pick up the phone and think, forget this, and just make a normal phone call. Hi, Gary, how you doing? And it's a real challenge.
Did you have a problem syncing your contacts when you first put your microSIM in?
No.
No, because interestingly enough, and this I've got to give like Microsoft massive respect for, all right?
Yeah.
Full integration with the Google ecosystem. Loving it. Absolutely loving it.
Guess who pays Microsoft
so
for Active
yes,
Sync?
big money. It's actually a big revenue stream, yeah.
And Apple.
But my diary and my contacts list is 100% lashed into the Google ecosystem, right? So
Yeah.
primarily because it works fantastically well across Android, but also works beautifully on iPhone, works beautifully on Mac, works actually beautifully with the connectors on a Windows machine. But then what was extremely rad was, so you switch the phone on, and of course it asks you for live credentials. You type in your live credentials. It's like synchronizes 4 things, because I haven't used live in a very long time, right? Brings down the 2 emails from like 2004, all right? And then you go into settings, accounts, you add Google, and you have the ability to, because I've got multiple Google accounts. So one manages calendar and contacts. You can switch mail off for that account. And then the other one is just for mail. So I switch calendar and contacts off and switch mail on for that account. And bam, absolutely awesome. So I had absolutely no hassles with that. Did you import contacts off your
I
Microsoft
tried
or
to,
what?
but it obviously doesn't read the iPhone format that my
So
contacts were saved.
I didn't even know that you could save contacts onto a microSIM using an iPhone.
Can you? You
Probably
can't.
not. It's probably
No,
from
no,
one
no.
of your other phones that you use.
Now, one thing Nokia has, and this was pretty prevalent on the N9 specifically, was that contact transfer app. Where did you try that?
Yeah, it works via Bluetooth. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure. It's quite interesting. It kind of emulates a car kit. You know, car kits can suck in all of the, Bluetooth car kit can suck in all of the contact
haven't tried
information. So try that. That was fantastic. It totally saved my bacon when I reviewed the N9. So give that a try. But other than that, I mean, what other negative experiences?
Oh no, not that. Oh, just the lack of cool apps. I suppose
Yeah.
I'm looking every day trying to find cool apps.
It's going to take a while for this ecosystem to really get mobilized. I think, Windows 8 is going to be that tipping point where, and a lot of the messaging I'm seeing out of Microsoft at the moment around Windows 8 is around getting their developers geared up for a consumer-focused view on the world. And, a ton of their base has always been focused on big back-end business type software and that kind of stuff, whereas everybody else has innovated with these little appy type things that sit on dashboards and in little widgets and gadgets and that kind of stuff, and that is the kind of stuff you need on smartphones and tablets. So I think it'll probably take, but it's going to take a while to
I
get there.
downloaded an app called Instacam. It's an unofficial Instagram app It's very
Huh?
limited.
Okay.
You
But can you Instagram from
No,
it?
you can't. That's the problem. You cannot upload. You can look at everybody on your stream. You can like their pictures. You can view popular photos, but you cannot upload.
Yeah,
And they have like 9 filters, I think, which is also not.
if we have
doesn't
any
compare
like
to Instagram.
really big VCs or like people with alarming amounts of money listening to the ZA Tech Show, would you do us a favor, please, and
Port
throw a lot
Instagram.
of money at Instagram so they can get us versions for
every
Android? I know
platform.
they're working on Android
Okay.
and Windows Phone. I'd say and then and BlackBerry at the same time. It's it's
Everybody loves Instagram, and
it's
should
what
be everywhere.
stops me moving from my iPhone, dude. Seriously, I go back to my iPhone because I miss Instagram. It's like become an integral part
well,
of
I'm
my
using it with
life.
Wi-Fi now, so I still.
I mean,
can
everything else is there. WhatsApp's there.
Use. Yes.
It's very cool to be able to MSN and stuff like a Twitter, Facebook, all of that stuff's there. Viber is available as well
Oh, is it? I haven't seen.
for Windows Phone, which is pretty
Viber's,
rad.
it's a bit like Skype.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Mixture of
No,
Skype
I
and
find it
really well.
fantastic for
the
mobile.
quality
yeah.
is good.
Very,
and it
very
works
good.
well on mobile.
But no Instagram. Uh-oh. Okay. Let's maybe cover one more story and then get on to picks of the week, because I know this is something you wanted to chat about, Stephen, and that was BlackBerry OS 7.1 and OS 2 on PlayBook. Your opinion on that? Too little, too late, or like a phoenix from the flames?
Much to the horror of certain gentlemen at BlackBerry, I managed to get hold of a copy of OS 7.1, and I've installed it on the new Torch. I've installed it on the 9900, and I installed it on the 8300, the new 8300, or all these numbers, the
yes.
new curve.
Yes.
And I must tell you something. This is what OS 7 should have been when it came out.
Okay.
It's much faster. It's slicker. It's much more polished. The switching between apps is really fast. And it has a couple of things that we've been taking for granted from everyone else. You can now use your BlackBerry as a mobile hotspot.
Okay,
How's
tethering.
that?
Ta-da.
So it's got Wi-Fi tethering, and it's really fast. Why I don't think we've heard too much about it is that it works through BIS. So that's quite revolutionary. So without an APN setup, I was tethering and downloading at pretty reasonable speeds through BIS. That's exactly what Vodacom moaned about in December.
Okay.
So
But
you're the
no,
people.
No. I wasn't downloading movies. I was just browsing the web. And it's really quite fascinating how they've brought the BlackBerry OS right up and in line with the best from Windows Phone, from OS X, or from Apple iOS and Android. So it's really fascinating to see. And if their new BB10 is significantly better than this, I think we're in for something pretty spectacular. Because BBM is still more solid than WhatsApp or any of the other instant messaging services I've used. So BlackBerry in South Africa is still doing really well for good reason.
Dude, I want to see OS 2 on PlayBook. I'm dying for that thing to be like
But didn't you
ridiculously
play
useful.
with it in
I
Las
played
Vegas?
with it, but you know how it is.
Yeah,
It's like
no, there are a million people.
a million
all
and one
poking.
people, and the stand's noisy, and you really can't spend some time with it. And it's the same story with why I've learned some stuff about the Lumia this week, is because I had a week to play with it. I want that kind of time with OS 2. I mean,
Well, they say
I
it's
love
coming
my
out on the
PlayBook. I just get
17th.
frustrated by all of the things it can't do right
Correct.
now.
And you've got to carry a BlackBerry phone around to get email,
yeah,
which is crazy.
And it's as it is, I'm carrying 4 or 5 phones around with me, so it's just.
So my take is whether it's too late or not. The fact is, the platform is extremely competitive now. It has all the features and all the slickness of all the
It's
not
down
the
with the
sickness. It's all the
Totally sick.
slickness of the other operating systems, and it's got a massive installed base. So I have some faith in the fact that BlackBerry will rise a little from the ashes. I don't think they'll ever be as dominant as they were in the past, because there's simply more competition. I mean, the interesting thing is in the US, they haven't actually lost numbers of users. What they've lost is market share. But why? The market itself has exploded around them. So where there used to be 20 million smartphones, there are now 60 million smartphones, and they've still got their 7 million.
Yeah.
So, a lot can be lost in the hype. But as a competitive platform, OS 7.1 is spectacular. The little I played with OS 2 on the PlayBook, it's really very smooth, very polished, very complete. and some clever ways of doing things. So I think we're in for a bit of a resurgence of BlackBerry. So don't run for the hills quite yet.
No. Quite the contrary. I think they will be around for quite a while. I look at the PlayBook, and I go, how is that product still around? And
well, in truth, it's not.
HP killed its slate.
I think that was politics.
No, but you know what? It was at least in terms of media hype and everything else. I mean, Nafisa, chime in here. Your thoughts on the HP. We didn't see the HP slate in South Africa at any one point in time. It was launched and killed before it could get here. But there was more noise for that than what there was for PlayBook, right?
Yes, that's true.
And that was a commercial failure, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, I'm not a big BlackBerry fan. Should I not have said that?
No, that's fine. It's totally entitled to your opinion.
I'm not a big BlackBerry fan either, so
I think it's totally effective for a whole bunch of things.
But why do you need to carry a BlackBerry around then?
A lot of people are attached to BBM. They find it very useful, and you know what?
When you
I think it does mail. I think it does mail bloody well.
It's not just mail. The one thing that BlackBerry get better than any other touchscreen phone out there, especially their keyboard models, is how quick and easy with all the shortcuts you can be effective. So if you're on the road, you're in the car, you're rushing in and out of the office, nothing beats a BlackBerry for speed and efficiency in terms of dealing with your mail, communicating with your office, doing all that sort of stuff in a quick and simple way. You want to make a phone call, just type the first part of the guy's name on the keyboard and up pops his name. Things like that are actually quite difficult to do on a touchscreen phone. The one pet hate I have for iOS is trying to find a phone number. Trying to get that tiny little thing at the top of the screen into the search bar. You can use universal search, which does work, but go into a fairly large list of numbers in your contact list.
Yeah.
It's a pain.
Yeah.
It really
I've
is
never
a
had
pain.
too much problems with that.
It's not a problem, but I'm saying comparatively, when you start using something with a keyboard and it's really quick, you realize how slow the other one actually is. And when I say slow, it probably takes you an extra second. But do it 10 times a day.
Yeah, I know, for sure.
That's a lot of time.
I agree with you.
And that's why I think BlackBerry has found their crackberry addicts out there. And there's no question, if you're a media type, you like playing games, and you're happy not to work with your phone on that level, the iPhone's media interface and the way it works is just fantastic. And it does things that no other phone does in terms of slickness and integratedness. Lovely word.
Stephen, I hear all of that, but I think that BlackBerry really does need no doubt.
They need
a change of direction, not for any other reason. I don't think they're on the wrong strategy. I just think they've been pursuing the same strategy for so long that it's just become, you know what to expect from a BlackBerry device and from the OS right now. And you know what? I want something new, revolutionary, and it must not resemble anything they've done before. And that, I think, will get the market to go, wow, that's pretty awesome.
New.
So
let's QNX or BB10 may just be that. And let's hope they hit the next wave. And if they do, they'll do great. If they don't, they'll stay where they are.
I want to see how they reinvent the
pancake, the pie,
their QWERTY phones. You know,
yes, for sure.
Because the classic. I mean,
do you think there's still a place for those things, though, Ben?
See, this is the thing that a lot of people like. Though they're a lot smaller, they're more compact, and a lot of people like them. I mean, to be quite frank, the what they've done with the 9900.
The 9900.
The 9900 is what they should have done 2 years ago with the Bold.
Correct.
I mean, it's 2 years behind where it should in terms of release date when it should have been. It was 2 years late because the moment that Apple released the iPhone, BlackBerry should have been going, how can we turn the Bold into a touch phone?
Maybe that just takes 2 years. I think they were just caught by. I think so many vendors were just caught.
I just think that
Apple blindsided everybody.
I think they blindsided everybody. But I mean, remember the iPhone was announced 5 years ago.
Is it that long?
5 years ago.
That's crazy, right?
And there's still iPhone killers coming out.
Yeah. So
Any day now.
So I'm giving them 3 years, 2 to 3 years, to turn their Bold into a touchscreen device, and it took them 4 to 5 years. I mean, in reality.
Yeah.
So
no, look,
Okay,
so look, in their defense, what I do want to say for a second is the reason Android caught up so quickly was because they had multiple vendors behind them.
No doubt.
Yes.
And those multiple vendors create a truckload of manufacturing demand, right? And that means that you get
And
massive interest
engineering
from
resources.
the East. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. You know, it's maybe it just does take a little bit
Yeah.
longer. And
I just think that
was
if
the
you're
point
on your
I was
own,
gonna
yeah.
make.
There
They're a
is a-
small company.
yeah.
Forget.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way: they got 70 million users, but they're a small company.
Okay.
I
all
just
right,
think the
stop.
point I was trying to make
Okay,
is that
no point.
is that that they're locked into a specific form factor because of their history.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that that's a bad form factor. I'm just interested to see how they evolve beyond that.
We're not living in 2002 anymore, is
Yeah.
what you're trying to say.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, and people like that.
This
I've
is
got
not
lots.
Kansas anymore.
I've got
What
lots of
is
people.
Toto.
People come to me and they say what phone should I buy, and I go, do you want a touchscreen or do you want a QWERTY? And they go, well, I don't want a touchscreen. And I say, well, get a
Gonna
BlackBerry.
get a BlackBerry. Yeah,
It's like,
hands
that
down.
is my answer. So
No, I ask if they have full internet access at home, and if not, then go for the BlackBerry. Then you always have internet access.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
We
fair
take
enough
for
as well.
granted that we're always connected here.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. That's it. Done.
Picks
Zip
of the
it.
week.
Picks of the week time, and we will start with Nafisa because she's been so ridiculously noisy on the podcast the whole evening. So we'll give her
Okay.
as much time as she wants to talk about her pick of the week.
Okay, my pick of the week is called betabait.com.
Okay.
It's a place for startups to connect with early adopters who love new apps, as the description says. So if you want to sign up to beta test some web, mobile, or social apps, then you just 2-minute sign up, put your email address. You get one email a day showing you what's available, and then you choose what you want to test.
Okay, so what kind of stuff have you found on BetaBait or BetaBait?
Betabait. I just signed
So
up
like
today.
bait is in like a worm on a hook,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, okay. And
Yeah.
beta is in like testable software,
Yes,
right? Okay,
testable
cool.
stuff. Web, mobile, and social apps.
Okay. So what kind of stuff? I mean, maybe
Oh, I
pick
signed
one or
up
two.
today.
Oh, okay, so you haven't
So I
picked
haven't
anything
actually
yet?
received anything. I'll receive one tomorrow.
Okay. Oh, so they send you one?
A daily mail of different
and
A
services
daily mail
available.
of an app
And
or
then
a
you-
service.
and then you get to
services are
like either
available.
like opt in or
Yes, and then you choose which one, whether it's a web, mobile, or social app.
that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah,
I mean,
clever idea.
If you like being an early adopter.
from like two perspectives, I think it's rare to be on the cutting edge from a user perspective and see where the market's going. I'm definitely going to sign up because that's pretty rare. But I think for a lot of startups, that's so useful. One of the
Yes,
most
and then-
difficult things to do is find
It's fine. Yeah.
decent beta testers, right?
So yeah, if you're a startup, you can also sign up to get people to test your stuff.
Okay, cool. I like
Win-win.
it. I think it's rad. Betabait.com.
.com.
Benedict Kelly,
So,
what are you picking this week? I
so-
think I know what you're picking
yes,
this week.
Brett owes me some software so I can actually get onto this thing. I'm trying to source. It's very hard to find Windows
Windows ISO.
Windows ISO so I can buy a CD key and get it going. But I came randomly across this website called goodoldgames.com.
GOG.
GOG.com. And basically what it is, they do sell some newer games. So like The Witcher 2, you can buy it from them. But their main thing is basically a catalog of older games. And I mean, I think I came across it because of Thief, the game Thief,
Yes,
which is
yes.
one of my favorite games of all time. So you can buy it for like $10. It's fully
$10, that's crazy.
tested up to Windows 7, so it'll work on Windows 7, which is one of the big problems. Even if you have one of these games sitting on a CD or on a stiffy disk in the thing, it's probably not going to run on the latest version of Windows because of all the the changes. And if it does run, I had one game once where I had to like load up like 20 versions of Windows Media Player running concurrently to slow the game down so it was actually playable.
So what you need to use in that instance is what I'm picking, but we'll get to it just now. Ben just said
So-
stiffy disk, I realized. And for those of you that aren't South African listeners, a
It's a
unique
floppy.
South Africanism is we used to have stiffy disks and floppy disks. Floppies were 5 1/4 and stiffies were 3 1/2 inch. And because they were in a little bit
They were in a
more plastic
folder.
and they weren't bendable and they weren't floppy, we called them stiffies.
So, okay, so if I just run... okay, I'm just going to run through a few of the games they've got there. They've got the 11th hour, they've got 7th
They
Guest.
don't have 11th hour and 7th guest yet, and I was going to chime in
coming
on this.
soon,
They're
sorry.
coming soon for
Come-
$10
For $10.
each. That's killer.
dollars or
Yes,
rand.
so-
dollars.
They've got... there's a few free games like Beneath the Steel Sky is free. They've got... I'm just running down here.
And they run kind of specials every now and then.
Commandos
which is
2
kinda
and 3. Commandos Ammo Pack. They've got they've got the Descent games. If you remember, go Deus Ex, the original Deus Ex, which is on there. They've got Dungeon Keeper 1 and 2. They've got
okay, so it's pretty much a fantastic like there's a
all
plethora
the
of stuff.
all the King's Quest, Police Quest games. They've got SWAT 3D, which is also one of my favorite old games of all time. Like I like these sneak around, shoot 'em type games. And then there was one other one I just wanted to mention, which is sorry.
How do you spell?
TCH.
Wing Commander.
Wing Commander.
Wing Commander 1, 2, 3,
Wing Commander,
and also Privateer, which was their more trading-y type game.
Yes, that's right.
They don't have Freelancer, which I seem to remember being a really good. And then they got
Yeah.
Zork Nemesis and Zork Grand Inquisitor, which the Zork Anthology.
What I like about GOG is
Worms.
we've been using good old games in the office for quite a while now to get retro stuff. Retro gaming is coming back like really, really quickly, and
Run it on your phone.
well, yeah, soon you'd be able to run it on your phone. But I think the thing that's gotten us so interested, at the office is the fact that there's just so many good memories there, all right? And you feel bad going to abandonware sites and like downloading stuff. Because it's like, strictly speaking, there isn't any form of legislation or precedent in place that says after a certain year, a certain number of years after a piece of code has been developed that it's now classified as abandonware, even though you can't find it anywhere. So you know what? Good old games, the prices are ridiculously cheap. I'm very excited about 11th Hour and 7th Guest. Those were two of my favorite games of all time. And for $10 each, like the dollar was $7.51 today. So like $75, you seriously cannot go wrong.
Yeah, I mean there was one game which I really want to play still, which is I played it once when it was Jeep Police, which you can actually get on the PlayStation Network. Jeep Police. It's like a helicopter type game set in futuristic sort of domed cities, and it's quite a lot of fun. And it got a bit of flack when it came out, but I really enjoyed it. It was a bit tough at times, but I quite enjoyed it. It had an interesting storyline, but you can't. It's not on GOG.com, but you can get it on the PlayStation Network if you've got a PS3. So I don't have a PS3, so I'm still out of luck, but I like the idea. And I mean, a lot of these games are like SWAT 3, which is like a full 3D sort of tactical game, is like 1 gig, So it's not they're not. I mean,
How times have changed.
Yeah.
When we had a 3 gig cap, you would have been moaning like mad.
I have to just mention this is my first memory of like real like sort of first person shooter gaming was Duke Nukem 3D. Okay, now
isn't the first level of that still classified as free? You can download the whole first campaign.
Well, I downloaded the freeware version of it, like the demo version, which was I think was 3 or 4 levels, like 4 times on my parents' phone line, and they paid for it.
Or did you pay for it in some way or another?
I always do. I paid for it. So if you
Pain and
download
suffering.
Duke Nukem 3D Atomic Edition, it is a grand total of 27 megabytes.
Oh, that's crazy.
And it took like the whole afternoon to download. In those
you can
days.
get it, dude, but you can get it now on iPad. But anyway, okay. So moving along, Mr. Ambrose, you always have some interesting picks. What are your
Well,
picks
I got
of the
2
week?
picks that I picked up at Showstoppers, funnily enough, in Las Vegas. The first one is a iPhone and all sorts of iDevices and other devices covers. Now, there were about 47 gazillion covers at the CES.
Yes, it always
everybody
happens
had
to
a
have,
cover. But one of the biggest hassles about getting these covers that allow your iPad to stand is they're big and bulky.
Yes.
And from a company called ZeroChroma.com, and I've been on their site. You can buy the stuff from them.
And ship it to South Africa.
And you can ship it to South Africa.
Cool.
Pretty reasonable. They make really good iPad covers and iPhone covers that have got fully rotatable little feet at the back.
Oh,
so
nice.
you pop it out, you spin it around, and you can make it stand up,
portrait or landscape,
or whatever.
That's very
and
nice.
it works very nicely with
smart
the smart cover.
Ah, that's very cool.
So you
actually.
can roll the smart cover up, put it behind, and let it stand up.
I like it.
And it
clever.
doesn't ruin the look of the device, and it doesn't.
It's hardly noticeable.
Yeah, and I just thought it was clever. It was a useful, clever thing. And I mean, not often you want your iPhone to stand and look at you, but if you're at a desk, it really works. Cool. And the next thing that I was blown away by, is a company called Velodyne.
I spoke about these last week.
Okay.
Man,
Now,
fantastic.
Velodyne make a subwoofer called the 1812. It costs in the region of 200,000 rand.
See, I was not that far off, and someone was like, "No, it's not that expensive."
200,000
Yes,
rand.
big money.
Has an 18-inch and a 15-inch woofer. And I promise you, it can move the earth. I know
Okay.
there's one in the country. I installed it in a friend of mine's house. It is spectacular. Now, from the same company comes a little pair of in-ear headphones, which you can also buy online. So go to Velodyne with an E.
VELODYNE.
And tell David that Steven sent you, because
Okay.
he's the man who gave it to us. Nice fella. And
Yeah.
they actually, for the money,
I'm loving
for
them.
$80 to $90, they're spectacular. They
They
got
live
great bass.
Yeah, they live
They
in my
sound
bag.
fantastic.
They're awesome.
And what a find. So hopefully some intrepid importer will pick them up and bring them into South Africa. And we'll see them soon. But if not, go online, give them your credit card and get them.
Yeah, fantastic pick. So my pick dovetails quite nicely into Ben's, and I've talked about Boxer.app before, which essentially is DOSBox for Mac. Now, I've never actually played with DOSBox for PC, ironically enough, and I went and got DOSBox today, and I took a lot of my games from Good Old Games, the DOS-based stuff, and I put them inside DOSBox.
And
It's absolutely fantastic. Very elegant little interface. What I like about it is you still get to hack around a bit in DOS, which is nice. You get to like
/ backslash
Yeah, you
CD
get
and
to
all
like
that stuff.
mount other directories into drives, which is kind of cool, and then run them. 100% emulation. The nice thing is, so Ben, you were talking about the fact that you have to run all of these instances of media player in the background to slow your machine down. The nice thing with Boxer is it's got customizable speed. So what you can do is you can assign more processor cycles or less processor cycles to an app. So so if you really want your Space Quest to look like it's running on a very quick computer, you can crank it up with Control F12s just to get it to run a little bit faster, or a little bit slower by Control F11. But it's really, really fantastic piece of open source software. Just Google it.
So do you think it'll run any
DOSBox.
of those old Windows games? Or-
It won't run any of the old Windows games. It's fantastic for running DOS games.
Okay.
What I suggest you do, though, and I investigated
Windows
this,
game,
for
yeah.
Windows games, just install XP mode.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, it's free with Windows
Yeah.
7. Download XP mode and run it, and it'll run
It's
seamlessly
free
in
with
a window.
certain versions
Yeah,
of
professional and above.
and ultimate. So
Professional
professional,
and
ultimate,
ultimate.
and enterprise.
Yeah.
The only three versions that you can run it with. But it's totally worth the money to do a anytime upgrade of Home Premium to
professional
Ultimate or whatever the case is, whichever's cheaper, just to get access to Windows XP mode. The nice thing about Windows XP mode, Ben, is that it's not like on Vista where it sets up a bit of some environmental variables to let the application run. This installs a physical instance of XP in a VM on your
Absolutely.
computer,
Okay.
and then you can
So
run
it's
XP
real
games on top.
XP.
It's really choice.
Yeah.
It's very good. So that's how you would get around
Okay, that's cool.
that little chestnut.
I wanted to. Sorry, I know
Yes.
I've gone past my picks and we're a little bit over time, but I wanted to
Yeah,
run one
little
more
bit.
thing, which I noticed it was announced at CES, which I don't think really anybody picked up on. I've got one of these little Seagate GoFlex drives, and I like these drives because the back of them comes off, and you can switch out the essentially the interface.
Yes.
Okay, and at CES they announced Thunderbolt ones.
It's little
for-
Thunderbolt snap-ins. That's
little
kind of
Thunderbolt snaps. I don't think they're available here locally, but I'm pretty sure they'll be coming here fairly soon
cool. Well,
because there's no reason why not.
indeed.
And as soon as I see one in the store, that I'm going to buy one, because then you've got full Thunderbolt speeds on your drive, and all you've had to do is maybe spend a couple of $100 on an additional interface, on a snap-in for the back of it, which
That's
I think is a
awesome.
fantastic idea.
That's
awesome.
clever. Very clever.
Yeah,
All right.
and you get a USB 3.1 and eSATA ones as well.
Should we wrap it up there? Any suggestions from the chat room in terms of what we should call this episode? Any suggestions from the panelists on what we should call this episode?
Virgin suicides.
Virgin suicides? No, shame.
I think we should call it Bring on the Light.
Bring on the light. That's so inspirational.
No, it's the
Have you been
Lumia.
Have you been reading a lot of
Yeah, no,
Stephen Covey recently?
I've been doing a lot of inspirational stuff. Bring on
Seven
the Light.
Habits of
Come on.
Highly Effective Text.
That's it.
Anyway, okay. And on that note, we shall call it. Thank you for joining us on Monday, the
Lame but
6th of
bright.
Feb 2012, episode 197 of the ZA Tech Show. Only 3 to go. Mr. Steven Ambrose from Strategy Works, at Ambio on Twitter.
Follow me and I'll guarantee to bore you silly.
Yeah, indeed. He won't follow you back though. He's not that guy.
I do. I got too many follows.
And of course, the animated as always, the exciting as always, Mr. Benedict Kelly.
I got told I didn't speak enough last week, so hopefully I've made up for it this week.
He had
Totally
3
did.
scotches
You didn't
before
even
he
make up
arrived.
any numbers tonight, Mr. Kelly. Very
Sorry,
sad.
I'll do it next week or next time.
And our Zats virgin, no longer a virgin. Consider yourself deflowered.
Well,
Nafisa. Did you enjoy it at least?
I
Was it
did,
fun?
and
Bretsky
well,
subtle.
since Ben didn't speak too much last week, it looks like I didn't speak too much this week. So I'll have to come back next
We'll
week.
totally have to get you back sometime soon.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for joining us. And that's it. Episode 197 in the bag. Catch us next week if you have some time on a Monday evening, 7 p.m. Central African time. Tune into the live stream at www.zatech.co.za, or just get the podcast, iTunes, from our website, etc. We'd love to hear back from you. All of the contact details are on the website. Take care.